Hey everyone, welcome to the Lunchroom Syndicate at the Geek Table. I'm Christopher, and that's Jay.
Today we're going to be talking about Episode 5 of The Walking Dead Season 7, Go-Getters. In particular, we're going to be talking about the plot and how that's driving characters' decisions and not characters driving the plot, and that just drives me completely crazy. This episode, probably the worst with it, and that's really the reason I'm looking at this as maybe the worst episode in the Walking Dead series.
Yeah, if not one of the worst. We'll be talking about that more next.
Now dig on this.
Dance off, bro.
Alright, first we're going to talk about the Carl and Enid dynamic of this episode.
They really developed Enid's character over the past season, roughly, with her being a part of the Ree family. So her making that decision to go to the hilltop to be with Maggie during this time, I think is really strong for this character.
However, Carl decides he's going to go and takes a car, which is a great idea because he'll get to the hilltop quicker. But he catches up to her and he decides, oh, I'm going to hit this walker, one walker, and in turn ends up fucking up the car.
That walker posed no danger to either one of them whatsoever. And it wasn't this, last-second heroic effort like Enid's about to die unless I hit this walker with the car. He hits it, runs into a pole, backs over it, runs in, makes sure that their easy transportation to the hilltop is, like you said, completely fucked.
Yeah, watch that. It made no sense. It just made no sense of the story. It made no sense. Carl and Enid both are very capable fighters. It's not like they've never killed a zombie. Enid goes out all the time. Carl goes out. It made no sense. But don't fear. They found rollerblades.
Roller skates. They did get some roller skates. So, yeah, that would have been a hell of a walk for them to make, but they did find some roller skates that were laying in the side of the road in a bag that had 2 pair of roller skates. Nothing else in the bag. So not only is that just a little too convenient for them just to be laying there, but then they fit.
This whole part was basically, they didn't want to get there too quickly because they get there before the Saviors to the hilltop, but we need to get there quick enough.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of them having to slow the pace down so they didn't arrive to the hilltop too quickly.
It was just way too obvious.
Yeah, it's just a complete mess with those rollerblades, and it did create that moment where they're skating off and they're holding hands. It's a nice little tie-in to the comic books with Carl holding hands with Sophia for the first time, and we have Enid taking a lot of the story arc from that character in the show. But that was far from worth it, having to sit through just that horrendous scene.
Yeah, it was awful.
So we eventually, Enid makes her way to the hilltop. Carl does not. Carl goes and jumps into the Negan convoy. That's going to bring up some really interesting story arc coming up in the next few episodes. And you hit in your prediction, and you were pretty close to being spot on with that. Yes, Carl did not leave Alexandria in the Negan convoy, but they still made it work. They're getting him to Sanctuary, and we're going to be talking about that whole story arc and what to expect in the coming episodes with Carl and that in another video, so we're not going to spend
we won't waste too much time there. You know, I may have gotten the Carl prediction right, but I was off on one of my predictions with Gregory.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Yeah, and And I'm glad that you were wrong about that, because we're getting some really interesting story from Gregory right now. The actor's doing a phenomenal job at making sure that we hate him. And they're just playing him off to be this just complete jackass. Pretty much every time that he's on screen.
You know, they are doing that, but it really didn't work in the beginning of the episode. You know, when he was out, was talking to Maggie and Sasha about how Maggie basically has put the hilltop at risk. He wasn't wrong. It made sense.
It did. They were. The dynamic really falls on, we had a deal.
He's mistaken.
You did not follow through with the deal, and it really wasn't him being spiteful with,
and we'll be safer without her.
Hey, you didn't follow through on your end, so because of that you have to leave. It was, you didn't follow through on your end, and because you were unable to follow through, we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
And of course Maggie needs to stay because of the doctor there, and she's pregnant and having health concerns right now.
Absolutely.
But that's not going to matter when the Saviors find out what happened here and they are connected. Maggie's gone anyway. Like, oh, you made that deal with him? You thought you were... No, it's not going to play out for her benefit if she stays either.
This conflict between Maggie and Gregory, and them making Gregory into the ass, is really pushing Jesus to stand up to Gregory.
Yeah.
And really making him...
No.
I'm not turning away a pregnant woman.
And questioning his authority,
I'm not
questioning
turning away
his
Sasha.
leadership.
Who the
Remember,
hell
he's-
is Sasha?
Yeah, because
Stay.
they're showing him without this compassion, and that's really forcing Jesus to kind of look at what type of leader that they have in there. Jesus doesn't want to take over the lead.
No, he said that, and you could tell the planting the seeds, and we're getting ready for Jesus
So
to
why aren't you in charge?
want to help Maggie get into that leadership role.
Yeah, which we've been talking about for a while. Once they got to Alexandria, Diana was really going and grooming Maggie to be a leader.
Maybe you gotta do more.
Anybody who's familiar with the comics automatically knew that was going to be leading to her taking charge of the hilltop, and that's starting to show through already. So right from pretty much the start of the episode, we find out that Abe and Glenn are buried at the hilltop. And we both kind of question that a bit.
Yeah, it just, in terms of the TV show, it makes absolutely zero sense. I know both of them were there at one point, but there was no real driving force behind that. Why at the hilltop?
Yeah, Maggie had no intention to live at the hilltop. I think the show just really failed at this point. Glenn is buried at the hilltop in the comic books, but they really built that up so much better in the comics. In the comics, Glenn and Maggie had already visited the hilltop. Glenn had the idea he wanted them to live at the hilltop. That never came up in the show. So there was no reason for Maggie to want Glenn buried there. Their home was at Alexandria. The majority of the people leaving the death scene with Negan from the premiere went back to Alexandria. Why leave it to two people that are going to the hilltop? Why say, okay, you two, you take these bodies with you back to the hilltop, bury them there. I'm going to take the rest of us, the other dozen of us, back to our home where they should be buried, and we're just going to be kind of relaxing. We know you're, like, basically dying, Maggie. You're dying here, so you're capable of taking care of this. And the only reason we're sending Sasha is so she can take care of you, plus take these dead bodies with you. Did not work at all in the show. So why are they there?
Abe and Glenn are there because they want... Again, this is part of what we've been saying this whole time. The plot is driving the characters, not the other way around. And this episode, it really did that badly.
Yeah, they're there because they need them to be there later. and not for any reason for them to be there now.
Convenient dead bodies are convenient.
The last thing we want to talk about in this episode is the Saviors going to the hilltop. We have a new group that's going to the hilltop to be working with Gregory than what they're used
Gregory.
to. The hilltop's
Guilty
used
as
to.
charged.
That's because Rick and the survivors
Welcome to
taking
Hilltop Colony.
out
Thank you.
everybody at the outpost in last season.
Right.
yourself at home.
Which brings up a good question.
This isn't a social call.
Do the Saviors know the Alexandrians and the Hilltop are working
I
together?
don't think it is.
I mean, it seems
need to
it
talk.
seems that way because if you remember in the season 6 finale,
A little
they were stopping them halfway at
claustrophobic
every
in here, right?
route going to the Hilltop.
Yeah, and so how would they know
Stalking your
which
stomach.
routes to block off if they didn't
see
know
that
where
baby.
they were going? They had to know that they were going
Yeah.
to the hilltop.
Absolutely, and then in assuming that they do know, because that's the only logical thing we can think of. Why was there no real punishment for the Hilltop?
Yeah, and it wasn't even that there wasn't punishment, but they didn't even acknowledge. They didn't say at all, like, we're aware that you are making deals against us, and we can't allow that to happen.
Right.
And they don't. But even if they don't care, because they have both the Hilltop and Alexandria under their thumb, they're pressing down. They feel like they're in complete control of the situation. They still can't allow something like that to happen without any kind of repercussions, let alone without any acknowledgments of it happening.
And now we're getting to another part that just doesn't make any damn sense. One of the reasons why Gregory was so adamant against Sasha and Maggie being there is he wanted plausible deniability, which makes some sense. Except we just proved why it doesn't make sense. But we talked about that.
Yeah, but Gregory doesn't necessarily know that the Saviors should know about the collusion going on. So, like you said, he's looking for that plausible deniability. And we have Jesus hiding Maggie and Sasha off in a closet.
Remember, that was Gregory's idea, but then Jesus took him to a different closet.
Yeah. So Gregory decides, hey, before you leave, I do have something to share with you. I have a couple people here in the closet. But he doesn't even say, I have a couple people here in the closet. Why wouldn't he say that? So he's already throwing, hey, I need plausible deniability. It seems that he's getting away with it. Then he's like, oh, I did get away with my plan. Let me fuck up my own plan. But then he doesn't even say, hey, I have a couple people that you might be interested in hiding out in a closet here. He doesn't even give him that much. It's like, I got something to show you. And it just happened to work out because there wasn't anybody in there. It doesn't make sense how he brought that on. You have to, any person is saying, I have a couple people hiding out in the closet that you might be interested in. Then they get to the closet and they're not in there. So the only reason he worded it that way is to have that reveal later that he was trying to double cross them. He was trying to double cross Maggie and Sasha, and it didn't work out, and he didn't know how to continue with that. So again, the plot is driving the stories. It's not characters making good decisions and doing what fits within their character development. It's what do we need them to do for the plot to happen in this certain way. So obviously, neither of us liked this episode at all. I don't know if I would necessarily say this is the worst episode in The Walking Dead history, but that's only because I tend not to remember them or want to remember them.
Right.
That's something we may do over the break between the mid-season finale and the start up when we come back for episode 9, doing some more videos. That's one of them that we're going to be taking a look into doing, is ranking our best episodes of The Walking Dead up to this point. And now, because of this episode, the worst episodes in The Walking Dead, to see where exactly we have this one ranked.
Mm-hmm. Well, the rest of this half a season, we're going to be doing a preview on our next video instead of doing our normal episode by episode, because the way they're doing the previews now has gotten a little funky.
Yeah, the preview for the next episode isn't a preview for just that next episode. They're showing scenes and clips from throughout the rest of, and it may even go into the second half of the season, some of the previews. But they're kind of combining that into, and this season's just been pretty difficult to do that for each episode anyway, because they're all bottle episodes. The through line for the story really isn't that solid of a through line at this point. It's all going to connect. It's all going to be worth it. But right now, it hasn't been a great season.
No.
So, like Christopher said, look for our preview for the rest of the first half of this season coming up later this week, including some death predictions that we expect to see before our break for the mid-season. But that does it for us here at the Geek Table. Make sure that you leave your comments down below. Let us know what you thought of not only this video, but let us know what you're thinking with how the season's going, how this episode was going. If you liked this episode, please write down below why you liked it. We need to hear some positivity towards it, because we have basically none. So leave those comments down below. Find us on Twitter at the Lunchroom Sin, and like our Facebook page.
Deuces.